thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and this is the weekly fishing report for the first week of May. I don't have my phone today, and I am embarrassed because I don't know the date, but I'll flash that up there. It's the first week of May sometime, and this is the weekly Delta fishing report. We're going to go over the striper fishing really quick, and then we're going to get into the largemouth bass because there are so many moving pieces to this puzzle right now that it has been very difficult for most of the anglers, including myself, to put all of these pieces together and be even somewhat successful. Okay, let's get into the report. Water conditions out here are fine other than a huge temperature drop, water temperature drop. Everything is fine. We're going to talk about that water temperature drop when we get into the largemouth bass. But clarity is unbelievable out here. I've been close to Paradise Point. Clarity is anywhere, I'll say, from 8 to 12 feet, maybe more. I've seen some gin clear water out here. I think if the bottom was 20 feet deep, I could probably see bottom. But super clear water. I'm sure if you're out at Frank's or somewhere where you're on a windblown bank, you may not have that, but around Paradise, in the sloughs and stuff, it's super clear. Water temperature as of Wednesday morning is about 63 degrees. Everything is ready to go. But it has been a brutal week this last week. Most of it's weather related, and again, we're going to get to most of that when we talk about the largemouth bass. Start off with the stripers, and this is going to be quick. The stripers are here and they're biting. If you've been braving the wind, you've probably been catching fish. There is a ton of fish in the system. I talked to Jeff Suhu, I believe it was Tuesday, and I believe it was somewhere around 10 in the morning. Jeff was already out of bait. And when Jeff says he's out of bait, he didn't tell me this, but he had a very good day already. That's probably meaning, I'll conservatively say, Jeff probably has had already boated 30 or 40 fish. At that time, he was looking around to find some areas where he can probably do some spooning and fish the rest of the day for his clients. But he said that on the days that he's been able to get out, he has just been ripping the fish. He also said that the fish are moving quite a bit because of the weather and the wind. So, you know, when he's off the water for a day or two and he has to come back, he has to refine the fish. So Jeff's key to success is trust your electronics. When you guys are out here and you guys know the Delta, you know your spots, turn your electronics on. If there's no fish, don't fish there. Make sure you're fishing where your electronics are telling you there's the fish. Stay on them and you'll catch fish. That's all I could say. You can troll, you can live bait, you can spoon, you can throw wake baits, whatever the heck you're throwing, you're probably going to catch fish. There's a lot of stripers in the system. Okay, on to the largemouth bass, and there's a lot of largemouth bass in the system, as always, but they are not cooperating for most people. And I'm going to, before I get into the actual report, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why it's been so tough on everybody out here. Number one, and I think the biggest reason, is last week I was getting about 72.9 was my high water temperature. This week, as of Wednesday at about 10 o'clock in the morning, it's 63 degrees. That's a 10 degree, close to a 10 degree water temperature drop in the central delta. Now, I want you to think about this. For a human, 10 degrees in the course of a week is not a big deal. For every degree that we feel, that fish probably feels close to a 10 degree temperature change. So in the last week, for, you know, in the fish's world, their water temperature has dropped 100 degrees. Hopefully I explained that right. That's the first problem that we've had, big water temperature drop. And we're going to keep that in the back of your mind because I'm going to tell you why the water temperature is going to come up real fast and those fish are going to be back in the shallows very soon, and it could be as soon as when you get out next week. The other situation was the wind. It was brutal. Most people that caught fish caught them early in the morning before the wind started blowing, or right in the evening when you had about an hour and a half where you can get out when the wind has seemed to kind of die down during those periods. The people that were out fishing, you know, during the day had a very difficult time. The one exception being Saturday. That was the day that Wild West was out here. They had a pretty good tournament, and most everyone that sent me good reports, coincidentally, they were out Saturday. So the Wild West tournament had 9 bags over 20 pounds. I think 26 won it, but they also had another 10, 12 bags that were 18, 19 pounds. Good weights, good solid weights out here. Now I talked to Rob from the Bass Hole, and Rob fished with his brother. They had 14 pounds. Not bad. Wasn't enough to cash a check, but Rob reported very tough fishing. I think he said they only got about 8 fish, and luckily they pulled out some spinner baits, I think he said, and got a little bit of a spinner bait bite, got a few on spinner baits, and just a tough day. And most of the guys in the Wild West, and some big names, man, you guys look through that, some of the best fishermen on the Delta did not fare well on Saturday, even though the fish were biting. So just take that into consideration. So what's going to go on this next week, and why is it going to be different? Last week, this wind that we had was from the north, and it was super cold. The nights were right around 40 degrees, and man, it just chilled that water and dropped the temperature. Next week, we are going to have some breeze. It's not quite, they're predicting not as much as last week, anywhere from about 10 to 16, 17 miles an hour of what I've been seeing. Check those, because I've been wrong about every week when it comes to predicting the weather. I'm just telling you what the weatherman is saying. But we're going to get air temperatures in the 90s by this weekend. So it's going to be a very warm breeze. The water temperature has increased in the last couple of days, and I am already starting to see the males and the smaller fish move up into the shallows. Now last week, before the temperature dropped, I know Zach from Outdoor Sportsman, who fished the Wednesday nighter, he saw a lot of big fish in the shallows. Problem is, because of the clarity, man, when those fish see you, most people are saying the same thing, they're gone. They're difficult to fish for. It's been a very tough year to sight fish for fish on beds in shallow water, just because they're so spooky. I believe most of the fish are out in 8 or 10 feet of water right now, and that's where they're going to be spawning. If you like going in and looking for beds, that's up to you, but if you really want to catch fish, I would say stay offshore a little bit. With that being said, this breeze will come up. It'll be a very warm breeze. The water temperatures will rise. The fish will start pulling in closer. We have a full moon coming up. I don't know the exact date, but it's coming, and I think that's going to be a big time to be out here, and the big females will be spawning. If you're going to do any sight fishing, that's going to be the time to do it. There have been some fry reported all over the Delta. They're about 1 inch to 1.5 inches long. So the fish that came in and spawned early, some of them were successful. I think most of the successful spawning is going to be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks here on the Delta, and probably the next full moon in June. I know that's late, but that's my prediction, and I think around July, August, that's when you're going to start seeing tons and tons of fry in here, and I think it's going to be a very good summer, because once those fry come out and the females start to recover from their spawn, that's going to be when they get real aggressive and start feeding again, and really get aggressive and start bulking up. So where does that leave us? Most of the fish have been being caught on slow moving baits. When it's been so windy that you can't fish them, a lot of guys are catching them on chatterbaits. And a bait that came into play last week is the underspin or a paddle tail. 3 to 4 inch paddle tail style swim bait has been doing very well. So those are the 3 baits I would concentrate on. The topwater fishing has not been all that great. I've been working all kinds of topwater, and I'm getting a fish here and there. When I've been able to fish bottom bouncing baits, I catch a fish every now and then, but it has been brutal for me. One day I went out and I was able to catch 1 fish, and that was a 14-inch striper. Other than that, I didn't catch a largemouth, and I was out 4 times. And again, for me, I couldn't come out and fish tides. I couldn't come out and fish early or late most of the times. I just had to come out when I had the time, and I was out here on the wrong times and the wrong date. That's just the story. So if that's been you, it's frustrating. And as I say, it's frustrating, I want to get into one thing. We're going to talk about some PBs. because as frustrating as it was for me, I've got to tell you some success stories, and I want you to check out these pictures. We're going to start off with Ryan. He had a personal best, 8 pounds 1 ounce on a frog. Congratulations, Ryan. Here's a real story, and my friend Jason, you guys know Jason from last year. We put out, it was Jason's first tournament out on Clear Lake. Same Jason. So he took his friend Steve out, and I saw them at the dock. I think it was, I don't know what it was, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. I wasn't out Saturday. I was out Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. I didn't do very well. But anyhow, I saw Jason. Steve was real happy because here's a guy that's been fishing, just starting. He got his PB, 2.5 pounds. Not a huge fish, but it's his PB. He got it on a Cinco. That same night, Jason got a 7.25, which was his PB on a Cinco. 2 guys in the boat, they both get their PB on the same day. That's a pretty good story. It gets even better though, because once Steve got that 2.5, he said, Jason, take me out again. They went out a couple days later. Jason sends me a picture. Here it is with Steve, a new PB of 5.5. Now that's getting respectable, and when you look at that, he broke his personal best by almost doubling that fish. So Steve, congratulations. Guys in the bait shop, get ready. I believe his second fish was on a Cinco. He's probably going to be emptying the shelves for Cincos over at Outdoor Sportsman or wherever he's shopping. So anyhow, congratulations, Steve. Now this is really the story that it doesn't get any better than this. We're going to talk about my little buddy Drew. Drew went out, 9 years old, picked up his PB, 6.1 pounds on a Cinco, and I'll tell you, the smile here is everything. That's why we're all out here fishing. When you catch a fish like that can just put a smile on your face like that, it's priceless. I want to congratulate Drew, and I also want to commend his mom and dad for having him out on the boat and teaching him how to fish and showing him the Delta and some of these more wild places, and get him off maybe the computer game. So Drew, congratulations. The keys for success this week for me, or for I think anyone out here, is if you get a day to come out here, make sure you put in a long day. You don't have to be out here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've done that the last week. I've just been out the wrong times at the wrong day, and I haven't had the opportunity to stay out for a 6 or 8 hour day. So if you're out here and it's your one day to fish and you've got the hall pass, come out and fish for 10 hours, because sooner or later you're going to hit that bite window. Make sure you get out early. The first couple hours, it's been pretty quiet out here, and then right in the evening it's been quiet again, and those have been, that change of light has been a pretty decent bite. But when there's no tide out here, it has been extremely difficult to catch fish, and that's because of the water clarity. We want some tide. It doesn't necessarily, high outgo has been the tide that most people have been catching fish on, but just fish through the tide. If you can find a little bit of stained water, find that stained water. Stay around tules. You'll catch fish in rocks, especially if there's rock with a nice trough and you got some elodea growing out there and there's a good bottom to spawn on. But if you don't know the Delta, stay around tules, isolated tule clumps, offshore, flats, areas that have shallow descending banks, not big breaks. It seems like most of the fish that should be coming up will be on these kind of flats. So stick in those areas. Throw Cincos, slow-moving baits, creature baits. Punch and frog fish. If you're not a puncher or a frog fish, make sure you're throwing a paddle tail swim bait. Make sure you're throwing a chatterbait, and you should do okay. Let's hope that we get this thing under control with the weather. The water warms up again and the fish start biting. Make sure you send me your reports if you do well or if you don't do well. I want to hear both. And that's at scooper9561032@gmail.com. That's where you want to send your pictures and everything. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you catch some fish. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. We'll see you guys on the water.